Starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 71, Argument. Zhang Yi, what's the matter? Zhou Hao asked curiously. Zhang Yi scratched his head. Zhou Hao, it's like this. My sister's birthday is tomorrow, so I wanted to invite you over for a meal to thank you for your help in the previous assessment competition. When Zhou Hao heard this, he couldn't help but smile. Sure. Speaking of which, I haven't met your sister yet. By the way, why don't you call Su Ling over too? It's more convenient since they're both girls. I'm not familiar with Su Ling, Zhang Yi said in embarrassment. That's not true. We've all become quite familiar after cooperating together during the training these past few days. Don't worry, if you ask her, she'll definitely agree to coming. Just as Zhou Hao said, when Su Ling heard that she was being invited to Zhang Yi's sister's birthday party, she agreed without thinking and even offered to arrange the venue. Zhang Yi hesitated for a moment and agreed. Zhang Yi was broke in the past, but his financial situation was better now. He wanted to give his sister the best birthday this year. The next afternoon, Zhou Hao went straight to the agreed-upon Duran residence. When he arrived, he realized that the other students from their class were also there. Even Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other Yanjing geniuses were there. Needless to say, this was definitely arranged by Su Ling. He hurriedly walked in front of Su Ling and whispered, Su Ling, why did you invite so many people? Su Ling explained, Zhang Yi told me yesterday that his sister has always had low self-esteem since she was young. She barely has any friends in school, so he asked me to make things more exciting for her this time. I was thinking that since we haven't had a gathering together before, I might as well take this opportunity to invite everyone over. After Zhou Hao came to a realization, he couldn't help but be speechless. Yuan Cheng and the others actually accepted your invitation. Su Ling smiled and said, Yuan Cheng and Yun Yan are pretty easy to talk to. As for Fang Yu, Lei Jinpeng, and the other two, they were probably persuaded by Yuan Cheng. Zhou Hao was convinced. Su Ling did not have much talent in combat, but in terms of dealing with people, she had inherited her father's strengths. In just a few days, she was able to be on friendly terms with Yuan Cheng and Yun Yan. Of course, what he didn't know was that Instructor Shen was actually responsible for getting Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the others to show up. As time passed, Zhang Yi and his sister still did not arrive. The originally bustling spacious room gradually became restless. After all, many students had come because it was Su Ling who invited them. Su Ling, where's Zhang Yi? Why isn't he here yet? Aren't we here to celebrate his sister's birthday, so why doesn't he arrive earlier? That's right, it's almost 1 p.m. We still have classes in the afternoon. Many students complained. Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other Yanjing geniuses did not say anything. Fang Yu seized the opportunity and sneered. If you don't even have this bit of patience, then you probably won't be able to accomplish much in the future. Lei Jinpeng chimed in, Sister Fang is right. In a battle with the foreign races in the wilderness, patience is the most important. We've only waited for a while, and yet you guys are already getting impatient. As expected of the students from Chu City High School. The other students had long disliked Fang Yu and Lei Jinpeng. In the past few days of the virtual combat training, the two of them had often found fault with them and mocked them endlessly. It seemed that they wanted to vent the humiliation of losing to Su Ling and Zhou Hao last time. Now, when they heard what Fang Yu and Lei Jinpeng just said, they immediately exploded in an uproar. What's the use of patience when you were still suppressed by our Chu City High School Su Ling? Hee, weren't they the so-called geniuses of Yanjing training camp? In my opinion, they're probably trash that are ranked at the bottom of the Yanjing training camp. Definitely. If they were real geniuses, why would Instructor Shen transfer them here? They shouted angrily. Fang Yu and Lei Jinpeng were already very bothered about being transferred to Huadong City. When they heard what they said this moment, they immediately became furious. We're trash? What a joke. Come, I'll fight you without even using my hands. You weaklings should consider it an honor to even be able to speak to us. After all, you guys can't even deal with a single demon warrior. A bunch of trash who only knows how to make up stories. The other students were not to be outdone as they shouted again, yes, we can't beat you, but the peerless genius of our Chu City High School can easily crush you with a finger. That's right. Stop looking down on our Chu City High School. When you see the strength of that hidden peerless genius, you will understand that you aren't as superior as you think. In the eyes of the peerless genius of our Chu City High School, you are even inferior to demon warriors. The spacious room was immediately filled with noise, and there were even signs of fighting. Su Ling felt a headache coming on. She hurriedly stopped them, but it was useless. Zhou Hao was also feeling very helpless. The moment these two groups met, they began fighting without stopping. Ha ha ha, you're making up stories again. Where's the peerless genius who killed 3 high-level demon generals? Ask him to come on out and show us his strength. In terms of the ability of making up stories, we are indeed far inferior to the students of Chu City High School. Lei Jinpeng laughed crazily. Fang Yu looked at them disdainfully. Yuan Chen, Yun Yan, and the others also shook their heads secretly. They had often heard these Chu City High School students talk about that peerless geniuses. However, let alone these 5 transfer students, even the head instructor of the Yanjing training camp did not believe it. Zhou Hao, call Zhang Yi quickly, Su Ling urged. Zhou Hao had actually called Zhang Yi a long time ago, but the other party did not answer. He spread his hands and was about to say something when he saw an anxious Zhang Yi appear at the door of the room. The other students in the room stopped fighting. They could tell that Zhang Yi was on the verge of breaking down. Chapter 72, Someone's Lying. Zhang Yi, what's wrong? Zhou Hao hurried forward and asked Zhang Yi, whose eyes were bloodshot as he held a cake in one hand. Zhang Yi endured his broken heart and gritted his teeth. My sister, she's gone. She's gone. Zhou Hao was stunned. The other students were also puzzled. Su Ling walked over and consoled, Zhang Yi, don't worry. Maybe your sister is still in school or went somewhere else. Zhang Yi shook his head forcefully. No, not at all. My sister doesn't have any friends. Other than school, she usually stays at home. I've looked everywhere. Then did you tell your sister that we will be having a birthday celebration at Duran residence today? Su Ling asked again. No, I wanted to give my sister a surprise, so I didn't tell her. However, I told her to wait for me at school this afternoon. My sister is very obedient, but I went to school and did not see her. When I returned home, I couldn't find her either. Zhang Yi said anxiously. Yuan Chen, Yun Yan, and the other geniuses walked over. Among them, Yun Yan asked calmly, Zhang Yi, do you think something happened to your sister? Otherwise, even if you couldn't find her, you probably wouldn't have reacted this way, right? As soon as he said this, the students, including Zhou Hao and Su Ling, reacted. Indeed. Zhang Yi was usually a calm person and rarely showed his emotions. He wouldn't have reacted like this for no reason. Swoosh. 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 Many students looked at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi immediately cried. Yes, I think something happened to her. I was worried about it happening before, but I didn't expect it to happen again. Zhou Hao asked in a deep voice, Zhang Yi, calm down. What happened? There are so many of us here. We will definitely be able to help you find your sister. Yes, Zhang Yi, don't worry. Yeah, there are so many of us. We're all classmates, so we can resolve anything together. Many students consoled him. Zhang Yi tried to stop his tears from falling down but failed. It's all because of me. I'm the one responsible for this. Some time ago, I brought my sister to buy blood essence pills. On the way, I bumped into someone. He said that my sister's foundation was good and wanted to bring her to a place to train. However, I refused. After that, that person kept asking about my sister's situation in various ways. He even went to our house. I sensed that something was wrong at that time, but because I wanted to save money, I still held on to the hope that he would stop coming and did not move out. Yunyan immediately said, "Are you saying that person took your younger sister away?" "That's right. If not for him, my sister wouldn't have disappeared for no reason." Zhang Yi gritted his teeth. "Do you still remember that person's appearance? Do you know anything else about him?" Yunyan asked. Zhang Yi cried and shook his head. "I don't know anything about him. It's all my fault. I was too careless." Zhou Hao said, "Zhang Yi, was your sister still in school this morning?" "Yes. In other words, she was taken away at noon." "Did you ask any of her classmates?" "I did. They said that my sister went to the washroom and they haven't seen her since." After Su Ling heard this, she immediately said, "Zhang Yi, let's all go to your sister's school and check again." The other students nodded. Zhang Yi regained his senses and hurriedly led Su Ling and the others to his sister's school. When they arrived at Zhang Ying's school, Su Ling called her father and informed some teachers. Under the school's cooperation, she questioned the students in each class a second time. However, the answers they received were almost identical to what Zhang Ying's classmates told Zhang Yi. After that, they searched the entire school again, but they still could not find any traces of Zhang Ying. Some of the students in Zhang Ying's class must be lying. Just as the group was at a loss, Yunyan suddenly said calmly. Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the others looked at Yunyan. Yunyan slowly analyzed, "It's very simple. When we checked the school's washrooms and classrooms just now, I noticed that the washroom was not far away from Zhang Ying's class. If Zhang Ying was really taken away from the bathroom, it's impossible for no one to have seen her." Yuan Cheng shook his head lightly. "Not necessarily. If it was a master-level expert, the students in Zhang Ying's class wouldn't have been able to notice." Yunyan smiled and said, "Zhang Yi said earlier that the person has been making inquiries and has even been to their place. If the other party is strong, there's no need for him to do this." The other students immediately felt that it made sense. Zhou Hao looked at Yunyan. "Does that mean you know who's lying?" Chapter 73, Thousand Vine Flower. Zhang Yi hurriedly looked at Yunyan. Yunyan could not help but ask, "Zhang Yi, who was the first to tell you that your sister went to the washroom?" Zhang Yi hurriedly recalled and said, "It's a girl named Li Mei." Yunyan asked again, "How's Li Mei's relationship with your sister usually?" "My sister is an introvert and rarely interacts with others in school. Her classmates don't remember her that well either," Zhang Yi explained honestly. Yunyan nodded and smiled. "This Li Mei is most likely lying. I noticed previously that the teachers in Zhang Ying's class don't seem to have any impression of your sister. Logically speaking, no one would have noticed your sister going to the washroom." Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the other students suddenly understood. Su Ling immediately asked the teacher to call Li Mei over. Yunyan asked directly, "Li Mei, did you go with Zhang Ying when she went to the washroom?" Li Mei was stunned for a moment before nodding. "Yes, I went to the washroom with her, but I didn't see her come out after I returned to the classroom." "What was Zhang Ying wearing?" Yunyan asked again. Li Mei did not react for a moment, but she quickly said, "She was wearing a red shirt." "No, an orange shirt." Zhang Yi said angrily, "You're lying. My sister was wearing her school uniform." Li Mei panicked for a moment. I don't remember clearly either." "Yeah, she was probably wearing her school uniform." At this moment, Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the other students couldn't help but look at Yunyan in admiration. Clearly, everyone had figured out that Li Mei was indeed lying. "Tell me, who took my sister?" Zhang Yi stepped forward and glared at Li Mei. The teacher also berated, "Li Mei, the nature of this matter is very serious. If you continue to lie, we will inform your parents." When Li Mei heard her teacher mention the word parents, she immediately turned anxious. She hurriedly said, I don't know either. Someone gave me 2,000 yuan to trick Zhang Ying to a corner of the training grounds. So it was you." Zhang Yi grabbed Li Mei's arm angrily. The teacher hurriedly shouted, "Please calm down." Zhou Hao also said, "Zhang Yi, don't be rash." "Li Mei, take us to that corner of the training hall," Yun Yan said. Soon, the group arrived at the corner of the training grounds. This place was indeed a little remote. There was a high platform that blocked the view. "Oh! It's a leaf from the thousand vine flower." Zhou Hao swept his gaze over. With his sharp senses, he immediately discovered an extremely small piece of leaf. "What? Thousand vine flower?" The group of students and the teacher following them were in an uproar. The thousand vine flower was a low-level demon warrior used by the demon race to spy on the humans on Earth and was generally very difficult to discover. Zhou Hao picked up the thin piece of leaf. Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the others immediately went forward. "It really is the thousand vine flower." All the students' expressions changed. The teachers who followed over also hurriedly informed the school leaders. It was a big deal for the thousand vine flower to appear in the school. Zhang Yi's body swayed as he said with a pale face, "How could there be a thousand vine flower here? Could my sister?" Zhou Hao narrowed his eyes and sensed carefully. Then, he said, "Zhang Yi, don't worry. Nothing happened to your sister. I think someone cooperated with the thousand vine flower to take her away." "What do you mean? Aren't the thousand vine flowers from the demon race? Why would they ally with humans?" The other students were somewhat dumbfounded. The expressions of Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other Yanjing geniuses changed. "The dark gods!" Fang Yu exclaimed. Lei Jinpeng's face also darkened. "Zhang Yi, your sister is done for. Only the dark gods collude with the foreign races. They are very mysterious and powerful. The people targeted by them are basically as good as dead." Although Zhang Yi did not know anything about the dark gods, he could tell from the reactions of Yuan Cheng and the others that they were not people he could afford to offend. "Sister, it was me, I'm the one who is responsible for what happened to my sister." Zhang Yi could no longer hold on and cried. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. "Zhang Yi, why are you crying? So what if it's the dark gods? Since their people took your sister away, we'll just have to find the dark gods. Your sister was taken away for at most an hour. Let's make the best use of our time. We still have a chance to save her." When Zhang Yi heard this, he immediately returned to his senses. Hope reignited in his eyes. Yes. My sister can still be saved. I want to save her. Are you kidding me? That's the dark gods we're talking about. Lei Jinpeng couldn't help but say, even large cities and large factions like the Martial Artist Union and the Underground Alliance Mall can't find the dark gods. How could you? Zhou Hao swept his gaze over coldly. No one asked you to come along. If you're afraid, get lost and go back to school. Lei Jinpeng was instantly furious. You piece of... Before he could finish speaking, he realized that the other students were all staring at him coldly. Even Yuan Cheng and Yun Yan were the same. I agree. Let's save Sister Zhang Yi together. Seconded. Count me in. Me too. The other students chimed in. After understanding that the Dark Gods were an organization that colluded with the foreign races, they all offered to help. Chapter 74, This is how a true genius should act. You're crazy. Fang Yu screamed. Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, they're crazy. Could it be that you guys are crazy too? With our strength, so what if we find her? If they see us coming, she'll probably be killed by the experts of the dark gods in an instant. Yuan Cheng shook his head and said indifferently, Fang Yu, how can we back down in such a serious situation? If we back down, what's the point of us practicing martial arts? Fang Yu was stunned. The other students looked at Yuan Cheng. Good job. This is how a true genius should act. Zhang Yi looked at the surrounding students and bowed with a choked voice. Thank you, thank you. Zhou Hao patted Zhang Yi on the shoulder and looked around. The dark gods are indeed very strong. It's fine if everyone has the courage, but we can't make meaningless sacrifices. How about this? I suggest we return to school first and put on our standard armor to prevent any accidents. Agreed. The other students nodded. As for Su Ling, she looked at Zhou Hao and couldn't help but smile. She didn't know that Zhou Hao would be so decisive and so uniquely charming in front of such a serious matter. The sets of standard armor were valuable resources of Chu City High School. Unless it was a special situation like the previous combat assessment, the school basically did not allow anyone near the weapon equipment room. Although Su Ling, Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other students were the best of the best in the focused training classes, their request for the standard armor would probably still be denied. Helpless, Su Ling, Zhou Hao, and the others could only go and find Instructor Shen. After all, Instructor Shen was the one who had transferred the batch of standard armor from the military camp. When Shen Jing heard that Su Ling and the others wanted to request for the standard armor, he could not help but ask for the reason. The other students, including Yuan Cheng and Yun Yan, stammered and did not dare to tell Instructor Shen the exact situation. It was mainly because the dark gods were too powerful. Anyone who knew the strength of this organization would turn pale at the mention of it. If Instructor Shen knew the reason, he would definitely stop them. Instructor Shen, Sister Zhang Yi was taken away by a member of the dark gods. We want to save her, which is why we need the standard armor. Since everyone else was silent, Zhou Hao, who was the one who came up with the idea, could only speak the truth. Indeed, Instructor Shen's expression changed drastically when he heard about the dark gods. Just as he was about to tell them to knock it off, he saw the determination in the eyes of Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, Su Ling, and the other students. He immediately swallowed his words. Are you sure they're from the dark gods? He asked. Swoosh. 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 Everyone looked at Zhou Hao. Instructor Shen was surprised. Zhou Hao was ranked at the bottom of the class. Other than the points he got from being lucky on the first day, his other performances had been average. In his opinion, Yuan Cheng and the others should be the ones leading the search for the dark gods. However, judging from the reactions of all the students, it seemed like Zhou Hao was in charge. Instructor Shen, the person who took Sister Zhang Yi away, has cooperated with the Thousand Vine Flower, Zhou Hao said in a deep voice. Thousand Vine Flower. Instructor Shen's expression darkened when he heard this. Zhou Hao nodded and handed over the Thousand Vine Flower leaf he found. Instructor Shen took a look and clenched his fists tightly. It's indeed the Thousand Vine Flower. Looks like this matter was indeed done by a member of the Dark Gods. In the various cities, only the Dark Gods colluded with the foreign races. Similarly, the foreign races also only interacted with the humans of the Dark Gods. Su Ling took the opportunity to say, Instructor Shen, that's why we want to request for standard armor. It's so that we can deal with sudden situations. Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the others nodded. Zhang Yi pleaded, Instructor Shen, please. Instructor Shen swept a glance at the students. He did not want to dampen their enthusiasm and passion. He knew that if he stopped them this time, it would definitely leave an impression on them. In the future, if they encountered such an incident again, most of the students here would no longer have this drive. The Dark Gods are mysterious and powerful. Even wearing standard armor is not safe enough. Your courage is commendable, but you still have to come up with a complex and dependable plan, he said slowly. Seeing that Instructor Shen did not stop them, the students were all excited. Yuan Chen, Yun Yan, and the others were also motivated. All the students looked at Zhou Hao again. Zhou Hao had already considered this on the way to school. Therefore, he said without thinking, Instructor Shen, although we are weak, we still have an advantage. Since we're only students, the Dark Gods members wouldn't be vigilant of us even if they discovered us. Hearing this, Shen Jing looked at Zhou Hao with interest. Chapter 75, Lives in Danger. Shen Jing knew that Zhou Hao was right. The Dark Gods were cautious, but the true experts among them all thought highly of themselves and were indeed not wary of students like Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao continued, and it hasn't been long since the members of the Dark Gods took Zhang Yi's sister away. I plan to search the surrounding area of her school and her home. Shen Jing interrupted and shook his head lightly. You guys don't have enough people. If you guys try to search a large area, it's basically impossible for you to find any traces. Moreover, can you even recognize a Dark Gods member even if you meet one? Zhang Yi has seen the person who took his sister, Yun Yan said. Shen Jing shook his head again. That's just one clue. It's still too difficult for you guys to find her. Zhang Yi gritted his teeth and said, no matter how difficult it is, I have to find that person and my sister. Shen Jing looked at Zhang Yi and pondered before saying, how about this? I'll give the city's safety department a call and get them to cooperate with you. We'll first do a surveillance network screening around the city. After we confirm the scope, you can then take action. How about that? Su Ling and the others were overjoyed. That's great. It'll be much easier for us with the safety department taking action. Thank you, Instructor Shen. Shen Jing waved his hand and his expression suddenly became serious. Let me make this clear first. Even though I gave you guys the green light, I still have one condition. I need you guys to stick together and none of you are allowed to travel alone. Also, if you find anything, report it immediately. I'll get the information department to specially set up a wireless channel for you guys to communicate. This is the first collective operation of our training class. I hope that all of you will refrain from being rash and will treat this as an actual training mission. Su Ling, Zhou Hao, and the others immediately said, yes, Instructor. Fang Yu, Lei Jinpeng, and Yan Ying originally did not want to participate, but when they heard Instructor Shen's words, they could only nod helplessly. Instructor Shen was very efficient. In just a few minutes, he had contacted the city's safety department and mobilized various surveillance networks to narrow the searching scope. With Zhang Yi's residence and his sister's school as the main focus, they began to conduct a carpet search. As for the person who had taken Zhang Ying away, he had disguised himself several times and was identified as the primary suspect. Half an hour later, the students of the training class were wearing standard armor when they arrived at Huazhong Road. There are a total of 4 main roads. There are 41 students in our class, so every 10 people will form a team. Among the 4 teams, there will be smaller teams of 2s that will search the various communities. Remember, you have to report the situation every minute. Yun Yan, you are very meticulous, so you will be responsible for recording the situation of the various teams and determining the location of that person, Zhou Hao instructed seriously. The other students did not compete with Zhou Hao and let him lead the group. Instructor Shen stood silently on the side as well. After Zhou Hao finished giving the order, he clapped his hands. All right, remember to be careful. Let's begin. Immediately, the group of students left quickly. Not only were they not afraid at all, but their faces were also filled with excitement. Although Instructor Shen's expression was calm, his heart was filled with worry. He knew very well how terrifying the Dark Gods organization was. But in order not to discourage the students, they could only let them be. Of course, he had already secretly informed Commander Zhao in the city. As long as there was anything wrong, Commander Zhao would be able to rush over in a short period of time. I hope this mission can give these students an unforgettable combat lesson. Instructor Shen muttered to himself as he watched the students leave. In a tall hotel room not far from Huazhong Road, He Biao, Zhen Hong, and the other grandmasters were gathered. Through the gap in the curtains, they watched as the Chu City High School students divided into 4 teams and drove towards various directions. This old Shen is getting more and more ridiculous. Yeah, how could we send a group of students to look for a member of the Dark Gods? Aren't we basically putting all their lives in danger? He sure doesn't seem to mind. Several grandmasters complained. They had been searching for the Dark Gods these days, but they had made no progress. This time, after Commander Zhao learned about the situation in Chu City's high school training class, he ordered the grandmasters to temporarily stop moving and hide behind the scenes to investigate. That was why things unfolded this way. He Biao sat on the sofa and chuckled as he drank his tea. I think these kids are quite brave. They're worth nurturing. Zhen Hong nodded and agreed. That's right. Although they're rash, they're still pretty brave to face the Dark Gods. Such courage is very rare and commendable. If they can maintain it, they will become the true pillar of humanity once they grow up. Moreover, with us grandmasters holding down the fort, is there even anything to worry about? The other grandmasters did not refute. They also approved of these students' courage. However, they did not think that the students would be able to discover anything. In fact, even after working for several days, these grandmasters were only able to narrow down the scope to Huazhong Road. Zhou Hao and the others naturally did not know that the grandmasters were secretly protecting and watching. After splitting into 4 teams and 20 sub-teams, the wireless channel became lively. Area A is safe. Area B is safe. Many students reported to him every half a minute, making Zhou Hao very speechless. However, he did not stop this behavior. After all, if something really did happen, he would be able to find out faster this way. Zhang Yi, don't worry. I believe your sister will be fine. Zhou Hao looked at Zhang Yi and consoled. He knew that Zhang Yi had suffered a huge blow after his sister was taken away. Zhang Yi's emotions had calmed down a lot. He looked at Zhou Hao gratefully. Thank you, thank you. Zhou Hao waved his hand and patted Zhang Yi on the shoulder. There's no need to thank me. It's what friends are for. Zhang Yi did not speak but nodded solemnly. As Zhou Hao spoke, he secretly opened the virtual screen. Luck points, 837,100, current level, overwhelming luck. There were still no changes to the 800,000 luck points. With the experience of finding the shadow insects last time, he did not hesitate and used 200 luck points per minute to find the member of the Dark Gods organization. As his luck points decreased rapidly, it only took Zhou Hao 10 minutes before he started to sense something.